Hi, welcome back. Really am going to try and do more regular videos. This one I'm going to do a gouache. I keep banging on about gouache being one of my favourite mediums, but I don't do that many videos on it or tutorials. So here we go. I'm going to be painting this, which is somewhere in Snowdonia. It's a slide I scanned years ago. It's a much bigger area, but I zoomed in on this area. You've got a dry stone wall going into the lake. I can't remember which lake it is. It looks as if it's somewhere near Blina, because that looks like slaty sort of outcrops there. But what I like about this, and that I zoomed into, is the light coming across there and the feathery bits. It's a good vehicle for gouache because you can do overlays of white on the darker areas. So that's the picture I'm going to be doing. The gouache I'm using is mainly Winsor & Newton. There's one or two De La Rowney, but it's mainly Winsor & Newton professional gouache, or designer's gouache is what they call it. Sorry about the earthquake. Bashing the tripod. Okay, colours. I've got titanium white and I've got zinc white, which I very rarely use, but I'm going to give it a go. It's more for mixing than painting as a pure white. It's thinner than titanium. That is Naples yellow, lemon yellow, yellow ochre. That's raw sienna. That one is also raw sienna, but that's the De La Rowney and that's the Winsor & Newton. I made a mistake. That is raw umber. That's raw sienna. That's burnt sienna. That's raw umber. That's burnt umber. That is alizarin crimson. And here we've got black, because I don't have any Payne's grey. And because I don't have any Payne's grey and I'm using black, I've got neutral grey, which I shall mix up with that to make dark greys. I've got Winsor blue, which sometimes called intense blue, which is greenish blue. That is primary blue, which is almost pure blue. That is intense green middle or something that's called, I can't remember. It's a basically neutral green. That's primary yellow, so I've got primary yellow. I haven't got a pure red because for landscape I very rarely use it. These colours here will do for making any reddy orangey colours I need. Those are all earths. Alizarin is almost earth, and these are sort of primaries and secondaries. So there we go. I'll get rid of that, and I'll use a Charlie Evans pencil, which I found lying around. It's not actually a Charlie Evans, it's just a little pencil. So let's have a look. Bring that down. This is obviously, because it's from an old slide, it's donkey's years old. Just slightly lower than halfway. And I've got I'm painting on, it's called De La Rowney simply acrylic, cheap as chips, A4, and I do my gouaches about 8 by 10 because they're easy to frame that way. And then we got a lumpy bit there, another lumpy bit there, and that goes off. We've got a further away lumpy bit that goes high. Got that. My wall, which I'll have more tumbly down than it is. Lots of brackeny stuff. Couple of rocks. And this lovely tufty stuff to hold that corner in. A couple more tufty bits. There you go, there's my detailed drawing. That's all I need to do on that. I'll stick it up there in case I forget what I'm doing, and then I'll make a start. That is a Rosemary & Co. Size 18 flat, they call it, Series 302. It's pretend sable. I use a lot of pretend sable when I'm working with gouache. It's soft enough. I'm using it, by the way I use I'm using it in the style of oils rather than the style of watercolour, even though it's water based. This is actually made for acrylic, and it's slightly textured. It's almost like linen, so I'm using it the same way as I would use oils if I was painting in oils. So I've got some grey, and I'll put some intense blue into it. Touch of the alizarin. Touch of, oh, that is cobalt violet, by the way. And I've got a sort of Welsh sky colour. And the beauty of gouache is that I can put this dark grey sky in, and then I can put white on top of it. You can hear probably the texture of this. I'm going to put some of the mixing white into that. Zinc white, but it's for mixing rather than painting pure whites with. Got that. More of the grey, more of this white. Put some kitchen roll, clean the brush. One of the things I love about Snowdonia is the fact that you can see rain coming miles away. One of my favourite photographs I ever took was when I was a kid. It was with our old box brownie, and I've lost it, but it was with my uncle's car, which he'd very cleverly stopped so that the front end was in the rain and the back end was in the sunshine. It's wonderful. But that went the way of all flesh about 50 years ago. So anyway, that's that done. We've got a grey sky and it's not all one colour. I'll let that dry and then I'll put the clouds that are coming over this misty hillside. So now I'm going to use an SAA imitation sable. That's it. I use this brush a lot. It comes to a lovely point still, and it's imitation sable. It means there's a lot of nylon in it. You can give it all sorts of hammer. Okay, into that I'm going to put the distant hills, so I'm going to use some of the blue. That's the primary blue, which is pure blue. Well, that one is a bit greeny. More of the grey. Now I'm going to do because I'm doing this on video, I'm going to be doing it a lot quicker than I usually would. So that's another challenge. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. Mixing in some of this violet into it. And bring this a bit further forward, more violet. Touch of this burnt sienna. More blue. Helps if you can see what I'm doing. That's the colour, that's that burnt sienna and some of that blue. Now we start getting a little bit of colour in, so I'll mix some of the green into that. just mix that green into that colour. Touch of the yellow into there just for the bit at the top of the lake. I need some more of that purpley colour. Now I want to put the big mountain in. Raw umber. Raw umber into that grey colour. When I mix, I use a damp brush. I don't actually mix water in, except in the first instance. I always squirt my colours. I leave them in this. I top them up when I need to, but I keep them moist. I keep it in a plastic bag and I squirt it every now and again. We've got that. I'll put some black. Never on its own, because it kills everything. I only ever use it for darkening things. That looks nice and dark. No idea what colour you'd call it, but it's certainly dark. Because this brush is quite big, it's got a lot of belly in it, and yet it comes to a very sharp point. You can draw with it. Now I'm just using all the other colours on the palette to go into this, so it's sort of neutral colour, but it blends in with all these layers because it's the same colours. And always bear in mind, if you mix all your colours together, you'll get some form of grey. because they're trying very hard to make black. I've just put the overhead light on there. I turned it off while I had the photograph out. I've completely forgotten to put it back on again. Okay, we've got a big cliffy bit. Let that dry. At the base, I'll paint in at the base. We'll put this bit here. Just add in some lighter bits of green. There's a little beachy bit there that I'll put in. There's actually a track going off up there. Put some darker greens into that far bit by just mixing some. A lot of people don't use green when they're painting. I find it's quicker. I try not to use things straight out of the tube. This middle green I usually put blues or yellows with. The light, what there is coming this way. So we want some lighter bits. Using this quite thickly like I'd use oil paints. With the number 6, the same range, smaller. There's some dark blue into that. And I'm just putting dabs in to make it, give it texture. It's actually millions and millions, well, thousands and thousands of trees. One thing that you do need to bear in mind is that gouache does dry a little bit paler than you put it on, as does watercolour. So it's because it's watercolour on steroids, really. So right, we're getting somewhere with the far distance now. Excuse me, I had a bad chest for ages. Right, I'm mixing the neutral grey and Naples yellow, which brings a lovely fadey. I've also completely by mistake got some burnt umber in it, but never mind. Again with this number 6 brush, I'm going to put in some sort of strata of rocks. A bit darker. Some more of the dark colour, which is the same as I used before. There's some light and shade in there so that it just looks a bit more rocky textured. Notice I'm not trying to draw anything specific, I'm just trying to make some sort of rocky texture. I'm not showing you the palette because I'm just dipping into bits all over it. Just looking for light and dark. Some of these, this scree at the bottom of the mountainy bits. There, that's got more of that shape. Where gouache is different from almost any other medium is its blessing and its curse, in that all you've got to do with it, no matter when, even years after you've painted it, you can reactivate the paint just by putting water on it, which means it's very easy to cock up. But if you can use it to make subtle mixes, or you can use it to change things completely. It's not like anything else. With oils, it stays wet for days and you can keep on moving stuff around. With acrylics, it dries straight away and you can go over the top. With watercolours, you can reactivate with watercolour as well, which I do quite often. But I just like what you can do with gouache. Right, that's very scary, but I'll leave it until after I put the foreground in, and then I can change it to make it sit where it belongs. Right, okay. Go back to my number 6. I'm going to do the lake now, which is, oddly enough, with it being Wales, there's a wind and cloud and rain. So off we go. I'm allowed to say that. Anybody else says nasty things about Wales, they get it in the neck. But the weather is amazing in Snowdonia. You can go through 4 seasons in a morning quite easily. This is titanium white with just a tiny touch of the primary blue, just to take the edge off it and cool it down. To try and keep a straight line, what I do is I put the edge of my hand on the canvas, and then I just bring the tip down to touch it, and then I move my whole hand, my whole arm rather. If you're going to paint straight lines, do it from the shoulder. You do that to make a straight line, not I'm doing that now because doesn't need to be a straight line. Okay, now we've got all this dark bit. And that Windsor blue, burnt umber, really dark. I can put a little bit of that green in just to warm it up a little bit. Now I'm what I call doubling, just leaving little traces using the tip of the brush, trying to leave some white bits just to give the impression of ripply bits. Having the brush strokes getting slightly bigger the closer I come to this shore. This is just a slightly darker version of the same colour. I've added more burnt umber to it, so it's warmer and darker as it comes further forward. Now where this, I'm still using this titanium white here. Touch of that neutral grey into it. Touch more of the blue. I'm going over the edge of these, and some of it will blend in and some of it won't, because I'm using a very light touch. See how by using a very gentle touch much I can actually paint white on top of this dark colour. Again, I'm taking the weight of my hand and then just using the tip of the brush. I want to try and keep movement in this, because one thing that you always get with these Snowdonia lakes is movement. The water is never still because the air is never still. There's always a breeze, very often force 9 gale, but you may be able to tell from my tone I absolutely love my country. I love where I live. I love going further west into the mountains. To me, where all these mountains and clouds and lakes are is where my soul lives. There we go, we've got most of the lake in. I'll put some pure white in bits of shiver after. Now we want that thingamy-bob. The wall. The wall. I don't know if you can tell. Yeah, it must be near Bliner, because a lot of the coping stones on there and a lot of the wall is just slate. I'm going to use a small chisel brush. It's a Rowney and no, it's not. It's a Rosemary & Co. Evergreen. Somebody very kindly got me Rosemary and... It was an earthquake. Somebody very kindly bought me a Rosemary & Co. Gouache brush set. Lots of different types of brushes. It's brilliant. They work very well. Must have cost whoever it was a fortune. I say whoever it was my lovely wife Caroline. Nobody else buys me stuff. Okay, into the white I put some raw umber, which makes it a sort of lovely browny yellow, browny whitey grey colour. And here comes, not the sun, but putting a little bit of Naples yellow into this to get some light bits. So there's the start of my wall. Somewhere I've got there, out of the same set. That's an evergreen, very small little chisel, and I'll use that for putting dark bits, and that I'll use burnt umber and some of this blue, same colours I've used for shadows over there. I'm using dry brush strokes here. I'm just dragging very, very dry brush over to get some texture. Again, I'm not painting bricks, I'm just trying to get texture. It's a good job I'm not painting bricks because it's dry stone wall and there ain't no bricks in it. There we've got a sort of wally effect on that. Now I'll put coping stones on. Give it a chance to dry slightly and see what my foam went ding-a-ling-a-ling with. Nothing important. So now I'm going to use this same brush, mix some more of this dark colour, the blue and the burnt umber. I'm not showing you the mix because it's just blue and burnt umber. And then I put the coping stones on. Now, burnt umber. Oh, and a little bit of Naples yellow, and we'll just put some more light bits. Now, more Naples yellow, some of the mixing white, into that burnt umber. And I'm using it fairly thick so I get some texture. And just putting on bits of rock stone into there. Not painting all the stones, I'm just trying to get a little bit of texture. There we go, that's that. Now, I'm going to use the middle-sized one of these, and there's a great sort of ferny stuff here, which I'll use the burnt sienna. Just use the edge of that burnt sienna, lots of. And yellow ochre. And we just now the base of that, another. I need to keep more still. At the base of that, burnt umber, well, the same colour I've got up here really. Burnt umber and blue. and just push some shadowy bits into the bottom. Now I need some very bright green grass. For the bright green grass I use the green. It's not a bad green on its own, I wouldn't use it, it's a bit chemical. And that is the primary yellow. Now we've got a lovely grassy green. Isn't that, see how I mean about chemical? It's gone very chemically over there. I'll get rid of that in a minute. I live on a very ordinary street of terraced houses. Every now and again it gets turned into Silverstone. People driving down it at a rapid rate of knots, even though I think I'm going to get rid of this green and put sap in instead. It's a much more amenable green. Okay, into that yellow ochre. I'm deliberately picking up the grassy green, which I think's gone a bit mechanical, and this is just yellow ochre that I'm putting on top of it, and I'm lifting it up on purpose, mixing it on the paper. To give it a nicer colour. That's got most of the grassy bit. It looks more grassy now. Okay, now I'm going to use a little skinny ribs. It's a number 2 rigger. and I'm going to use it to put the darks into that brackeny stuff. My usual dark, burnt umber and blue. I'll put a bit of black in it. And there, and we'll start putting some there's the darky bit. Now I'm going to mix Naples yellow and burnt sienna, and that gives me a much lighter version of the same sort of colour. Right, at least we've got some depth in that now. Use that dark wall colour, and I'll use this to put some now, get rid of that for now. Where's my number 6? There. Now I need, there's lots of rocks, and I've got a dark grey bluey colour there, and I'll put some of this light, oh that's far too white, far too blue rather. Let's start off, mix a new colour, grey and yellow ochre. That'll do for me lighter bits of rock. still wet. Remember, the sun's coming that way, so we need shadows over there. There's my shadowy colour. I'll stick a little bit of purple into it. Warm it up a bit. And this is still wet, so it will soften its own edges as I put it in. Now put some of that mixing white into this, stiffen it all up a bit, and put some highlighty bits. A little bit of dark. Just use the point now to get some detail. When I see detail, I mean sort of bit of shape. Some shadowier green, is that a word? It is now. Another earthquake. This is one of the things I really like about gouache, is the laying on of layers. and the fact that you can put thick paint on top of the paint underneath and it just blots it, or you can put thinner paint and either blend in, or if you're very gentle you can put it like washes of watercolour. I was thinking, anybody who talks to me on WhatsApp, there was a thing on Facebook the other day about ladybird illustrations, and they were done with gouache, and that's what really got me interested in painting when I was a kid in the 1950s. There's ladybird books. Harold somebody or other, I think his name was. We've got that. Now that is too minty green, so use some of the grey into the green. That's what I've done. I've used this green and I've put some of that grey into it, touch of lemon yellow. That little sandy beach. Now, these lovely marsh grasses, using burnt sienna into that green with a touch of Naples yellow, and then we just do some dark green. Now, this is where I either make it work or cock it up. Okay. First thing I'm going to do is clean a bit of palette. Because I want to be using very light colours. I don't want to pick up a lot of these manky colours. There you go. Brand new colour called Gouache Mank. You're watching paint dry now. Just thought I'd tell you that. You can watch paint wet instead. There you go. All I'm doing is putting dirty water, because that's the water that I've been using to clean my brush, all over it. Bit of kitchen roll and just get rid of the mank. That palette, by the way, if I remember, I got from the range or so. It's about 99p. Probably a bit more expensive now. Very cheap, but it's just the right size for putting out a good range of gouache, and it's good that when I finished I put it into a plastic bag. Keeps the paint fresh. Right, okay. Back to my number 10. which I'll clean. Now we've got another earthquake. Titanium white. I want it very strong. Where it goes in the distance, I'm going to put a tiny touch of Naples yellow. And now, using this big number 10, and I want to use it very lightly. Oh! Right. That. Now, somewhere, a little badger fan, and I'm going to use that dry. No, I'm not. The paint's dried. Use it nearly dry. Right, I've got rid of the little fan. Went back to my number 10, just softening edges. Right, all I've got to do now is, the reason I took the photo in the first place, I just remembered, there's a tiny little tree there which I'm going to welly in just to break up that shoreline. Yellow ochre, tiny touch of the green. Still not happy with those greens over there. That's better. Well, it will be when the end goes off. Use some of the dark underneath it. Very dark around the edge of that tree. my... Actually, I'm not going to use that one. I'm going to use a different one. That's still a number 2, but it's an SAA. It's a bit more robust than that Shiraz one. And mix some white, quite watery. And just put a few some highlights in the wall. Good grief, this is a very long video. Right, I'm going to stop it just for the sheer fact that it's far too long. I could go on fiddling with this for ages, and I possibly will. But for now, another earthquake. For those of you who live in California or anywhere, they're not really earthquakes, it's just me bashing my tripod. There we go. 8x10, mount on it, and there is a sort of Snowdonia Rain Factory in Gouache. It's not brilliant, but maybe I've demonstrated a little bit of something about using gouache. Okay, see you soon.